also those different aspects of performance written down on the same page and on a common website, so to say, or yeah. It begins with structuring data. I think that's what also in the paper of Peter mentioned. That's actually the hard work, and sometimes we try to avoid it, but that's really something we have to do. We have to transfer those data distributed somewhere in our companies into structured data. And that's actually the job of the manufacturer. So manufacturers are not sitting here, I guess. And I think it's also our job to explain them and reach the hand to explain them. We need you. We need you as a part of our methodology, as a part, as a most important part, as the smallest element of the building system. We need your information, but please structure your data first, and then maybe connect your information with common dictionaries, for example, the BSDD, but I guess the world will not be one data dictionary. It will be maybe more ontology, means connected dictionaries together, which is then defining those different languages with one machine-readable code. And that's something missing today in standardization. It could be in the future maybe an integrated process. Then when a standard is published in different language translated, why not translate it in the same time in a machine-readable data dictionary? So an early example of this was the ISO 22057, which made a list of properties. So the standard issued a list of the properties mentioned in their standard, published it in an Excel file, so with GUIDs. And we helped to integrate this in the BSDD. So this is a first example on how such properties, which are quite complex because they have many environmental indicators and sub-indicators. They have different life cycle stages. So it's very easy to make mistakes with this data. And therefore, it was important to go ahead and give orientation in case you want to digitize your EPDs, environmental product declaration, that at least you have a possibility to structure it based on a common language. So how to go ahead? First, you select the properties out of a data dictionary. You create a template. It's an empty sheet of different properties. Maybe association can create them. It contains at least the legal required data. And then secondly, the different manufacturers pick up this template, fill out their values. Then they can create a QR code, a URI, a permanent link, which leads to this information they input. And so the data was only provided once and don't have to be retyped again and again. I know it from my industry. The different traders, they just take the PDFs, they put it in their own systems again and again. So this is actually useless work we don't have to do. We can really reduce and focus on the really important topics. We did this in the wood industry. We tried it out, and it was possible to create such generic templates where we already have generic environmental values from the government, issued from the government, we have those generic values for wood, for example, which because we have so many small businesses, it's not impossible that every business creates their own EPD, so far at least. So we try to use first, as a first step, generic values, so that we already have no gaps actually in all the products we want to deliver information. And then the small business can select on the top their company. They can select the specific wood species, the location, the quality, the strength grade. And then if you have then really specified this generic template, he can go ahead and create this link. That means we can not only create templates, we can maybe from associations prepare also standard values, generic values of the industry, so that it is so easy for everybody, so that there's no reason to be against the DPP. So we can say it is even for small businesses possible to create such information, and will be even an advantage for small businesses because they will be as visible as the big players. And if they have clever and innovative solutions, they will pop up and will gain a quick market in the construction industry. So we see there a big chances. First of all, to provide the innovation or the information about this innovation. If you have invested in an eco-friendly product, your data will be visible, and there will be a new way of competition between products, which will not be only the price, but also actually the life cycle impact. Here I would like now to draw your attention to our national activities in Switzerland. We said, well, that's really important topic, and as we are not part of the European Union, at least we need to develop our common understanding about the topic. The same actually in the buildingSMART product domain. We need to discuss and get a common understanding before we go outside and discuss with other organizations. We need to get a common understanding and concept of what it's all about. That was the first white paper translated in English, but remember it is really focused on Switzerland. But it shows a bit the connections between the different, from the national level, international level to the regional or European level. We have on the left side the Sustainable Development Goals from the UN, from where these activities or these initiatives are derived from on EU level, and which could be broken down then to the Eco Design for Sustainable Product Regulation, ESPR, which then has influenced the construction product regulation. That means there are several different legal requirements we have to deliver. And on the blue side, that's then now what we could imagine how it could be, the information could be aggregated. So as I explained before, we extract properties from standards, we create templates, we enter the values, we add a unique ID, could be a GTIN from GS1, and then somehow we will have a digital product passport with no destination yet. It's just a product produced, and then we see on the lower right side, then we start the project and we assemble a digital twin with all those digital product passports. We will be hopefully able to communicate with the digital product passport, so I can send IDS to the digital product passport and import the really the needed data to my BIM model only, and this connection will be there forever with the building. So I will always have the access back to the DPP, which will be somehow stored in a registry or in a permanent storage, central or decentralized. And yeah, that makes then sense. And everybody who's participating in this process can then say, okay, actually, I never work with products. I cannot do anything, but then maybe you could then work on the workflow in the building model. And yeah, that shows there's a big part which the manufacturer has to provide, and we really have to invite them and try to collaborate more with the industry. I guess so far the industry is very, very confused. I don't know if you experienced about industry partners, manufacturers, Peter?
Yeah, it's just as I said, they usually don't know what to do, and they still think they have time and somebody will come and tell them. But if we tell them they should pay attention, it's I think the main problem is that manufacturers don't see the return of investment, so they are forced to create DOPs and the like all the documents and now product passports and invest money and digitize, but they don't see the added value. So we should like be able to show them that they were, for example, what we are trying to do is to show the users or the architects the where the added value of the product is if they innovate and they have something that nobody else has. And it's really hard. Without the information it's harder, but I think it's possible, and it could be one of the ways. Maybe another will be if they are digitized, it should basically make their internal processes more effective if they can harvest this. So yeah, it all takes time, and also the companies that are willing to invest and have the resources are the largest ones. But on the other hand, it takes time, and it's much more complicated in large companies to implement something. So yeah, so we'll see, but I think we are slowly proceeding.
Yeah, there's also often we try sometimes to skip steps in the process, right? We want directly have a digital product passport without having a dictionary, and that's actually impossible. You have to tell them first, create the data dictionary with your industry. Ideally, gather together with all other countries association and do it at least on European level or international level to create such a dictionary. And that's the first step you have to do before you start with the digital product passport. And yeah, I don't know. It's not every industry is the same, right? Sometimes you talk together, and sometimes you're competition, and you actually don't want to get comparable with each other. But I think in any case, it's better that you keep the sovereignty about this data. So we, at least in the wood industry, we hope we did this work. We made a common data dictionary about all the harmonized standards, and we hope this work will be recognized, and we could keep this data dictionary and also keep sovereignty about this data, because we, at the end, it's the performance declaration is owned by the manufacturers, and there should be like a split of requirements and performance. So there, like in standardization, the industry creates their standards. They try to find a common understanding what their product is. And it should be the same way with the data dictionary. It's actually not possible for someone who don't know the material write a data dictionary out of the blue somehow. So we will see how it will go.
Yeah, I think that the comparison of the products, we experience it many times. The manufacturers don't want their products to be compared to others. One of them actually told us that they know they are more expensive than all the others, so they don't want to be in the database. But I think this is inevitable because the digitalization is exactly about this, that the end user, the customer, the investor, whatever we call him, will want to compare. And that's why he needs to see why something is more expensive. And is this exactly the same product for higher price? Why would he buy it? So he has to see really another added value. It could be the CO2 emissions. It could be something else. It could be a warranty. I don't know. But yeah, that's what I think will happen eventually.
Yeah, the other aspect of this topic is, as we had in the session before, is then, okay, we have the process, we know how it works, but how is it with the quality? So is it really reliable data? That's something we cannot influence, actually, that there must be legal ways to how to define and punish people who want to cheat. And I think this will then also improve step by step, that we really have then a good data source to actually make assessments of building, which will allow to get maybe better, bring this building in a portfolio for green bonds, for example, which has advantage financial incentives. So this is very important that we work with incentives and not try to micromanagement for to explain everybody how to build, but to give incentives for life cycle assessment, a positive life cycle assessment, and then creativity can be still there to build. Yeah, also in different countries, we should not try to build everywhere the same. I mean, here in Morocco, we have also other climates, and there are different ways to build, and so we should work more with incentives for life cycle assessments. And actually, we get this response when our European Association talks with EU taxonomy for green financial products. They say, okay, yeah, that's true. Materialization, that's actually a big impact. They cannot neglect it, but they say, well, you have no reliable data, you have no reliable processes, so we cannot take this assessment as a real reference for our decisions. So we have to go ahead and improve that, so there is no argument against bringing the monetary flow into the right direction. The second white paper then goes into detail about the digital product passport. It was published this week, actually. It further investigates the framework of the DPP. And we also we have the vision in the product domain that we could take this as a start for an international paper. So to invite now more people, external experts like we have here. I know we have a lot of knowledge in our network, and to further improve this white paper so that it could be applied on an international level. And for sure, it's not something which is fixed, so it's a digital document. We can also make versioning and have it as a common description of the common understanding state of the art. Here we then drafted these connections, the possibility to have DPPs in-house with the registry, or have DPP providers. So it will be for sure that we need those providers who help us to do it, or bigger companies say, no, let's do it in-house. I invest something to do it in my existing product management system.
Yeah, I can maybe add to that, because I spoke about it yesterday, that at the moment manufacturers don't even manage their documents. So like the current technical sheets and declarations, they just discontinue the product, they throw it away, and you can't access it anymore. So they will have to pay attention, and especially here. So if you have a DPP, you should be able to access it like forever. So they would probably be DPP providers who will ensure that, maybe based on some, I don't know, certification, or the manufacturer can do it by himself. So I see this as a crucial part. So generating DPP or creating it is not the issue, but maintaining the URL is yeah. So then doesn't matter if you do it in-house or through someone.
So yeah, this presentation will be a bit shorter, but I guess, yeah, what's then the future of that once we have such data dictionaries? As I said, it will not be one or the other. It will be as well as world. So we will certainly have in parallel different dictionaries all over the world for their local standards. But it might be possible to interconnect those in a common ontology, so that we could switch from one perspective to the other. It could be a vision also for the BSTD, or for all the dictionaries. And as I showed in the last presentation, this is maybe we are now on these are different engines of the SpaceX rockets, different of SpaceX rockets, and you can see how something very complex was simplified and integrated. And I guess we are a bit on the left side now. It's very complex, so to say, to have an integrated LCA assessment, but if we continue, we will achieve a more integrated and automated process where actually the user is guiding the process, and not the process is guiding the user, so to say.
We can go through the document and show them the slide.
We can go through the document. Actually, we have time. Discussion. We open the discussion. Because the document, you can read by yourself. Actually, let's open the discussion. Thank you. Many questions. That's perfect.
There's lots of these pictures.
Who's first? I have a question about a specific modeling issue. We typically differentiate between different kinds of products, right? Generic, specific, occurrence, or even sometimes generic, specific, individual, and then occurrence in the digital building logbook, for instance, in time, right? But if we focus on generic, specific, occurrence, the link to the IFC approach is clear, right? It's IFC data, it's data sheet, it's data template. Yeah? But a lot of DPPs are now focused on these data sheets, right? What is the product in the market? But we see in a more industrial way, we're becoming much more parametric products, especially in construction. So actually the data template would then be describing the parametric product in a generic sense. I never hear this discussion in the DPP. They always focus on specific, like a supermarket article, right? And one step further is, in an industrial view, the facility next to the product could be seen as a very complex product again, right, in an industrial fashion. And well, we are convinced that, we need the right digitalization, but for the right industrial process, right? And not for the traditional process. So any DPP we consider or a model or should somehow take into account this industrial view, parametric products, etc., etc. But how do you see this in the DPP world?
Well, that's something we talked in lately together. So we collaborate also with Petter. So there are these off-the-shelf products. You produce it, and it's always the same. And that's the made-to-order products, which are actually systems with a lot of parameters, variables, or components too. So you can have components which you can switch measures and so on. So it will never be one like the other which you produce. So and I think in the future we will make everything or many things made to order. And that's then the specialty of Peter to find out how to create configurators based on described systems, and how to generate DPP, how to generate EPD. It's not such a static word as we think. It must be then also the next step will be do it dynamic and do it on the run, and do it for used materials, materials I find in a house which I want to deconstruct. But maybe that's you can shed light more on this.
Yeah, it's exactly like this. So what we are focusing for the past years, or I was focusing on to show people that they shouldn't just download BIM object and use it, and they should start from the generic specification, right? So we had to also work on the generic geometry and on how the process works. And at any step of the specification process, you can generate some data. So for me, the DPP is really the unique link for some data. And if you are able to version every step, where you can also check who did the change or who did the requirement and so on, then you can do anything with it. So many people see the DPPs as the very last step where you mount it, and then you say, okay, here, facility manager, here's the data. But you can optimize the process and the structure on the way. So, but there are no such tools yet, because we are really stuck on lack of data from manufacturers. Also, we don't generate EPDs. You need a certificate for like a stamp for that, but we can calculate it if we had the data. But basically, it's also complicated to get this data. So maybe there will be more requirements for this from the investors and from the community to go faster. But it's still the same process, So yeah, sorry. One more thing. There's also the generic values. You probably know it. Like for example, I saw it in Sweden. They just put it in an Excel file, so you can basically calculate the CO2 maximum like a maximum level for the building as in the design, and then when you specify the real products, then you can check that it's lower and that it fulfills the requirements of the government.
Okay, thank you. Just a final remark on your potential future vision of a semantic modeling network, ontology stuff. Note that in TC442 we developed a semantic modeling and linking standard that could actually support write that. And at the moment we are also trying to see how the ontologies developed according to SML, how we can convert those to the dictionary according to BSDD, semantically and technically, from say linked data technology to JSON. And there are still some issues to be resolved there, because the relationships in the ontology, they cannot match something in the dictionary. We can only have properties there, that kind of stuff, and that we use IFC relationships and stuff. So a lot of issues to be tackled, but such an ecosystem would be very interesting for the future, I guess.
What we also struggle with is that there is a lots of tools that can generate the IDS and that can check the final IFC model against the IDS, but nobody really can say how you fill it in, you know. So you need some automated tool that goes and allows you to fill the actual values there, and that's something that's missing at the moment. So also people say, okay, I found the product in a database, but it's not that easy. So because there is like IDS requirement for the project, and then I have a manufacturer with data who has a completely different set of properties. So you have to do the mapping. So probably we will map everything like in the BSDD or maybe on the IFC classification. And I don't know yet how to do this. But this is I think the missing part. That I know lots of architects who do BIM, like they export you know, the elements with the properties into Excel file, and then they just fill everything in Excel file and they import it back to Revit. Yeah. So but then there you don't have a tool to check out if there is a product available on the market and stuff like that. So this is
enough to be done.
Yeah, exactly.
Thank you. Thank you. Actually, I have some comments from the manufacturer point of view. I think I am one of the few people who are representing the manufacturers in this summit. It's always the same. In my country, it's the same. In buildingSMART International, it's always the same. I am Secretary General of the İMSAT, Association of Turkish Construction Material Producers. And since 2019, we are hosting buildingSMART Turkey chapter because we see that BIM is very important, digitalization is very important, especially digitalization in construction sector is very important because manufacturers always think that they are very digitalized because they are always thinking about their processes. They are very digital in their processes, but when you talk about products digitalization, they are not really very worried about that. At the moment, they are not worried about digital product passports, data dictionaries. They are more into the carbon border adjustment mechanism, for example, because they think that they are going to pay tax, because basically Europe market is one of the biggest markets for the Turkish exporters, and our sector is a very highly exporting sector. So it is important because we get your regulations as soon as they are issued. So we keep up with the regulations, and they think that if this carbon thing is tackled, then everything is okay. Some of the companies are international companies like Hilti or George Fisher, so their headquarters are in European countries, and the headquarters have a department for digitalization or BIM. So the BIM objects are coming from the headquarters. These companies, we don't even make them be a member of the buildingSMART Turkey chapter because they don't do anything related to BIM. They just get the objects from the headquarters, they put it on their website, everything is great. But the others, they say, okay, if the time comes, when the time comes, we are going to work with an expert or a consultant. They are going to prepare our objects, dictionaries, whatever is needed, because there is no need for a specific department in our company because it is not an ongoing work, you know. You just prepare an object, it's then finished. So this is how they think it is going to be. So we are trying. So, okay, your domain's work is very important because when the companies realize that DPPs are in the very, very near future, they are going to panic, and they won't know what to do. So they are going to look for these manuals, guides, whatever you are preparing. As a chapter, we started on our own guide for material producers. We have some guides for architects, another one for contractors who wants to go digital and what they need to do. When I learned that this domain exists and you are working on a manual for producers, we stopped our work. We are waiting for yours to come so that we can, I don't know, maybe combine it. So those are very important. It doesn't matter how many conferences or summits you organize. The producers are not here. So it won't mean anything for them. They are not interested. They don't. This is something to do with demand supply thing. So if there are more architects, more contractors who are asking for these things from the companies, fine. But if not, if they can manage as they are, they don't want to spend money, they don't want to spend time, they don't want their employees to spend time as well. I cannot make my members, the material producer companies, come to the chapter meetings. They say, we don't understand what you are talking about.
That's why, as I said, that I see this as a momentum where something started to actually happen officially, because if you have an obligation, you would have to pay attention. So maybe until now, we also didn't exactly know what to do, and we put all the pieces together, and maybe the result is DPP, I don't know. But maybe now is the time where we can, include the manufacturers more, because we've been like trying to also invite to our sessions and discussions some manufacturers. And every company sees it a little bit different. It depends on the product type, if it's a material or product and so on. And it has lots of perspectives on it. But now it's becoming more clear. So we hope this will be like the start, not the end of the discussion.
The thing is, probably you think that manual is a very simple thing. It is. I'm sure it is simpler than all these BCDDs, data dictionaries, all this technical stuff that half of them I don't understand as well, although I'm an engineer. But it is important because the companies, they are going to panic. They didn't start yet, but they are going to panic. Even a simple guide helps them to decide what to do. Otherwise, it's going to be a nightmare.
Yeah, I think we are very expert. We meet us regularly and we create our own language here, an expert language, but we have to somehow break it down in easy words. So that's why I started with the fable. I mean, that's something everybody understands. It's not an insult to the people, but of course, if you are new on the topic, you need somehow to communicate, hey, we have really a problem, and yeah, we need more information. And mostly the companies have already invested in so many tests and certificates and so on, but then the documents are somewhere hidden. They cannot even make added value out of it because nobody finds it.
Yeah, that's a good point, because I know a lot of manufacturers who just invested in BIM objects, and now they are coming and saying, hey, we invested and nobody wants it anymore. So we are afraid to invest again, because it's a lot of money for them. Because the small companies, they will just keep waiting, but the big ones, if they make a decision, it's a huge amount of effort. So maybe now there's a milestone that will help in this.
I was going to ask a similar question that you just asked, or to build on what you just said. Companies like BIM Object or websites like Revit City or Autodesk has had content. Do you see those types of information providers extending their deliverables to include DPPs, or are there new organizations, perhaps consultants, who will work with manufacturers, multiple manufacturers start to create hosted libraries of DPPs, or will it be dominated by the likes of GS1? who are already in the space? What do you see the marketplace for content?
I don't know, but it would be clever for them to have a strategy towards DPP. And why not? They have already the network, and maybe it's just a question of mapping. But as I said before, first you need the data dictionary before you do a DPP, and it's a bit more basic, the question, and how to make reliable data dictionaries is really always approach the sense standardization or the product standardization also in the States. Try to create directly when you issue a standard to create also a DPP, and then it's done. Yeah. Not the DPP, it's a data dictionary. I'm sorry, I'm mixing up the...
So I have to be very careful. We can talk in private, definitely, because I have lots of opinions in this area. But as a member of product room steering committee, I can say that there's been a lot of activity around this, and it's I think very hard also for the managers inside the manufacturing companies that admit that they invested in something that is not needed anymore, and that there will have to be another step, another investment of money and energy and so on. And I think that this could be the block that there is, because if you're responsible for digitalization and then you say, okay, we have something or BIM object on somewhere, upload it, and then obviously there are like users downloading stuff, and but the question is then, as I said, where's the business, where's the return of the investment? So I don't know if they are doing something, but as Hans-Ole said, they should be focusing more on the data finally than building objects. Because from my perspective, anyone who could use Revit started the platform for BIM objects and offering these services, but nobody really cared how to keep it up to date. So yeah, that's I think all I can say.
But I think it's important inputs from Turkey and the United States that we should not crash this topic. So it is so important for us that we should now really try to not create how to say resentments but it is some people will think that's an evil thing to do DPPs. So or it's for some it could be like a trade barrier. We should try to actively now try to find ways to not even only in Europe but everywhere to develop this topic.
Next, please.
Yep, thank you for the presentation. About the, I think first a comment kind of that some companies has invested in product libraries and put them online on some platform, but they made the decision, and maybe it's just been a trend kind of that's if your competitors and on the platform, you have to be there as well. There's no guarantee that it will be used, and in public project you're not allowed to specify probably more in EU, but also probably somewhere else to specify products. But so I think it's just been good sales pitches of people to use some of these platforms, and also the objects are often too large and too cumbersome to work with, so they are not being used. Kind of, they want to present the product as very nicely, but then it just makes it difficult to use the products in some platforms. But also, I talked with some from Norway, and the same in Denmark. Kind of that is people are using, and there's been another initiative, kind of how to do the sustainability calculation and stuff like that. Kind of you extract extract in IC quantities. Then you need to kind of know what should you extract. Then you should combine it with something which I certainly hope will be machine readable. Otherwise, it will be really cumbersome if you had to do this manually. What would you use? Could it be linked data stuff that could be used? Because I would like that it should survive for a long time. Maybe I would like to reuse something in 20, 50 years, and then it has to be a stable URI. How do we do that kind of? Because who is responsible for something which lasts in a digital world kind of forever? So it's there are big challenges, and maybe our specialist in linked data could say something about this, but I also seen that some of these people working with ontologies, they work isolated, kind of, okay, I made an ontology for something, which is nice, but then it really doesn't integrate with something else, kind of, and then it's kind of like pee in your pants, kind of, okay, it's nice and do something, but then it's in a few hours it will not be that nice. Or and if they all are done kind of linking this stuff together manually, there might be the future. But I'm not seeing any. And of course, we could put everything in the IFC model, but that might not otherwise be the solution. So how? And anybody who's willing to answer or give a comment about the what should happen in the future about combining all this stuff and make it accessible, machine readable for many years.
Yeah. Also, you reminded me that from my experience, 99% of the let's say budget we got for BIM support was from the marketing department. And we always said, guys, this is okay, marketing, but maybe it was 5 years ago marketing. Now it's like, it should be under R&D or some like IT department or something, digitalization. Most of the companies or manufacturers don't have IT department. So, but they have marketing and there's not much money. So they did BIM objects. And I think that a couple of years ago when these websites or portals started to be here, I think it fulfilled the purpose because it was about the brand visibility. And if you upload your BIM objects with your logo somewhere and you're there, then it fulfilled the purpose. And lots of users that work in ArchiCAD or Revit or Allplan and say they are doing BIM because of that and do not deliver BIM models or IFC. They just say we do BIM. They use it because they don't really care what's inside, which data, if it's up to date, they don't really care about it. So I think there was we could call this, I don't know, BIM support version 1.0, and now it's becoming version 2.0, which is not that much about marketing, but about the obligation. So I always distinguish these two groups. If you're an architect who really needs to deliver the data model.
Just to keep the conversation going, I guess. What manufacturers do you know of who have gotten on board and are creating DPPs, and how are they sharing them and distributing them to this point? I was in Lillestrøm, I guess it was a year ago, and there was a handful of Norwegian companies or Nordic companies primarily who were demonstrating their early inroads in this. Has there been much progress? Are there large manufacturers that you know are on the bandwagon, as they say?
I don't know about any actually.
Yeah, as in the wood industry, it's the associations who picked it up in Sweden. The Swedish Wood Federation is doing a good job on this. And also in Switzerland, we try to implement now these dictionaries, but step-by-step development. After you've done the dictionary, you try then to add those properties in your database and describe your products, first of all, in a generic way. Then, as I showed, second step, specifying this thing. We need maybe also a new wording, because the DPP will be like a trademark legal stuff. maybe you can tell them the generic more pre-DPP or something, so preparation for DPP. So we will have something in between the template and the finished specific DPP. We could describe systems which have a range of values, so that when someone is describing their specification, that it finds itself within a system. But that's, yeah, we just talked yesterday about that. We don't know yet how to do that.
The construction industry in Norway, I don't know how much it has changed in Scandinavia since, but I just wanted to add, there is also other industries that have the digital product passport. German manufacturing has the asset administration shell, which they love. That is actually a system that can send back information from the status of a product when it's in operation. We know that Hennes & Mauritz from Sweden, textile industry, Bergans of Norway. In the textile industry especially, they know this is coming. They have a lot of systems, individual systems running. Decathlon has their own system in France. Perhaps if you want to elaborate this further, also a suggestion for Singapore is to perhaps invite online a few other industries that are doing the same work, that have facing, okay, they are not BIM, they don't have to control with EFC, but they all have the registration of the economic operator, registration of the digital service provider, access to data, confidentiality. They have all the same things to solve. So perhaps this could be for the next 6 months until Singapore an idea. So you start talking with other industries. Just a suggestion.
It's a very good point, Martin. Thanks.
I have a last element in this presentation. It's actually an AI-generated podcast about the DPP. So we loaded up in the language model of Google Notebook, and we talk about this white paper, and I would say let it have it as the open end of this session. Thank you very much for your attendance, and now enjoy this AI-generated podcast.
Okay, it's wild.
Yeah.
And that's what we're diving into today, this new EU white paper, Digital Product Passport for Construction Products. We're really trying to get to the bottom of what it all means for everyone involved.
Because it does touch everyone, doesn't it?
Us.
I mean, whether you're an architect designing a skyscraper.
Or just, someone living in a building, it's going to impact us all.
Absolutely, yeah.
One of the things I found super interesting in this white paper is this whole idea of a circular economy and how DPPs could be a game changer. So help me out here. What does that look like in reality?
So right now, we're kind of stuck in this take, make, dispose mindset. The circular economy is about breaking free from that.
Okay, so less wasteful.
Exactly. Imagine deconstructing a building, and instead of everything ending up in a landfill, you can scan materials with your phone right there on site and see if they can be reused, recycled.
Oh, wow. So you can actually see if you can give materials a second life.
Precisely. That's the power of DPPs. They can track a product's entire life cycle, making it way easier to say, hey, we can reuse this steel beam, or this concrete can be crushed and used in a new project.
That's incredible. So instead of demolition equaling a mountain of waste, we're talking about resource recovery on a huge scale.
Exactly.
I like it. Now, the white paper also digs into some of the nitty-gritty details, like using these things called global trade item numbers, GTINs. Can you break that down for those of us who aren't supply chain experts?
Think of it like this. GTINs are like universal product codes, but for this digital age.
Ah, okay. So it's a way to make sure everyone's on the same page.
Exactly. Manufacturers, suppliers, consumers, everyone speaking the same language, using the same unique identifiers for products. It's all about standardization. which is really the backbone of making this whole system work.
So it's about creating this common platform, this digital space where all this information can live and be easily accessed and understood.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Which is essential. And of course, when we talk about digital platforms and sharing information, you can't avoid the topic of data security.
Right, because if we're embedding all this sensitive information in these digital passports, we have to make sure it doesn't fall into the wrong hands.
Absolutely. And the white paper does address that, emphasizes the need for seriously robust systems and protocols to safeguard this information. They talk about using things like QR codes linked to secure databases. There's even mention of potentially using blockchain technology down the line.
Which makes sense. It's one thing to have all this data available, but it's useless, maybe even dangerous if it's not secure and trustworthy.
Exactly. And to make sure that information is reliable, the white paper talks about the importance of these standardized data fields, a predefined structure for how the information is presented and verified.
Ah, okay. So it's not just a free-for-all. There's a method to the madness. And on that note of ensuring reliability, the white paper also mentions these certification bodies. What role will they play in all of this?
Well, someone's got to make sure the information in these DPPs is actually accurate, right?
Right. You can't just have manufacturers saying, oh, yeah, our product's super sustainable without any way to verify that.
Exactly. That's where these independent certification bodies come in. They're the ones who are going to be verifying the information stored in the DPPs, providing that extra layer of trust and transparency.
So it seems like there are a lot of different pieces to this puzzle. But if it all comes together, the potential benefits seem massive.
Oh, absolutely. And to be fair, the EU is trying to be realistic about the challenges here. The white paper even talks about taking a phased approach to implementation, starting with products that have the biggest environmental impact, things like steel, aluminum, cement.
Okay, so start with the big players. And even though this is an EU initiative, it feels like it has implications far beyond Europe. I mean, how do you see this impacting a country like Switzerland, for example, which isn't directly subject to these regulations?
Right. Well, even though Switzerland isn't bound by EU law, think about all the Swiss companies that export to the EU. To stay competitive, they're going to have to adapt.
It's like that saying, a rising tide lifts all boats. Even if you're not directly in the path, you're still going to feel the ripple effects.
Precisely. And for Swiss companies, especially those with a global reach, getting ahead of the curve, embracing these changes early on, could be a real advantage.
Sure. Imagine a Swiss construction firm bidding on a project and being able to say, look, we're already aligned with these global sustainability standards. That's huge.
Absolutely.
And it's not just about, checking boxes and complying with regulations, is it? Switzerland has its own goals when it comes to sustainability.
Absolutely. And they're ambitious goals.
Mm.
And I think that's the thing to remember here. This isn't just about following the EU's lead. It's about being part of this global shift
towards a more responsible, more resource efficient way of building.
Exactly. And Switzerland, let's be honest, they've always been ahead of the curve when it comes to innovation, especially in areas like sustainability. Embracing something like DPPs, well, it just makes sense.
It does. And the white paper does mention, the EU starting with those products that have a big environmental impact, like
Right.
steel, aluminum,
Cement.
Yeah, cement. It's interesting how they're prioritizing those high impact areas first.
What's the strategic approach, right? I mean, tackle the big players, gather the data, refine the system, and then, they can use that experience to smooth the way for rolling it out to other product categories.
So it's about making it manageable.
Exactly. You got to start somewhere. And speaking of starting somewhere, the white paper also talks about these pilot programs.
Oh, yeah. Tell us about those. What are they planning?
So basically, they're going to test this DPP system out in the real world. Pick a few specific product categories, maybe a few key players in the industry, and see how it goes.
It's like a test run.
Exactly. Because it's one thing to have this great idea on paper, but you need to see how it plays out in reality. Identify any hiccups, any challenges that pop up, before you roll it out on a larger scale.
So they can work out the kinks.
Precisely. And these pilot programs, they're going to provide tons of valuable insights, data that'll be crucial in informing the wider implementation of DPPs across the EU.
Makes sense. Now, of course, no plan is perfect. The white paper does acknowledge some potential hurdles, like, for example, the need for a really robust IT infrastructure. I mean, not every company, especially smaller ones, might have the resources to handle that.
Yeah, that's a fair point. I mean, implementing DPPs, it does require a certain level of technological readiness.
You got to be able to handle the data.
Exactly. But the good news is the white paper also talks about the role of external providers in all of this.
So like third-party companies that can come in and help.
Exactly. So even companies that might not have, huge IT departments, they can still get on board. They can work with these providers who can help them set up the systems, manage the data, all of that.
So it's not just about big corporations with deep pockets being able to participate. There's a way for smaller businesses to get involved as well.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The goal is to make this as accessible as possible, a level playing field for everyone. But technology is only part of the equation, right?
Right.
The white paper also really emphasizes the importance of training and education. You can have the fanciest technology in the world, but if people don't know how to use it,
It's pointless.
exactly. So there needs to be a big push to make sure everyone involved in the construction process, architects, engineers, contractors, even consumers, understands how to use this technology, how to make sense of the data.
It's about empowering people, giving them the tools they need to work with these DPPs effectively.
100%.
Yeah.
It's a shift in mindset as much as anything else. And education and training, well, that's how you bridge that gap.
Mhm.
And let's not forget, this isn't just about the environmental benefits, though. Those are huge.
Right. This is good for the planet, but it's also good for business.
Exactly. The white paper highlights the potential for huge efficiency gains. We're talking streamlined supply chains, reduced material waste, faster construction times, and more informed decision making.
Because when you have access to all that information, you can make better decisions, avoid costly mistakes.
Exactly. So it's a win-win.
Better for the environment, better for the bottom line.
Absolutely. And honestly, I think it could also be a big win for consumers too.
Oh, how so?
Imagine walking into a building supply store and being able to scan a product with your phone and see its whole story, where it came from, how it was made, its environmental impact. Talk about empowered consumers.
Yeah, no more blindly trusting labels or marketing claims.
Exactly. People can make informed choices.
So it's not just about construction anymore. It's about fundamentally changing the way we think about building, consuming.
The whole system. And, the white paper even hints at the broader potential of DPPs beyond just construction.
Like imagine going to the store and knowing exactly what went into making that t-shirt you're about to buy or that coffee you're about to drink.
Exactly. It's about lifting the veil, giving consumers that power to make really conscious decisions.
And I imagine that kind of transparency would be a game changer for companies too. Suddenly, sustainability isn't just a marketing thing, it's something consumers are demanding.
Oh, absolutely. It would completely change the game.
Yeah.
Companies wouldn't just be competing on price or who's got the flashiest product.
They'd have to compete on who's the most sustainable, who's the most transparent.
Exactly. Suddenly, everyone's got to step up their game. It's fascinating to think that something like a digital passport for a concrete block?
Could have that kind of ripple effect.
Right. It really shows you how interconnected everything is.
It's all about the information.
At its core, that's what the digital product passport is all about. Making information more accessible, making it clear, making it useful. And when you do that, well, people can make better choices.
It's like you said earlier, it's about moving away from that take, make, dispose mentality and
towards something more sustainable, a circular economy where we're actually thinking about the entire life cycle of a product.
Not just the end of its life in a landfill somewhere. Well, we've covered a lot of ground today, really dive deep into this whole idea of digital product passports and what they could mean, not just for the construction industry, but for, well, everything.
It's a big topic.
It is. Hopefully this got you thinking, maybe sparked some of your own ideas. And if you're hungry for more, you know where to find us.
Always happy to keep the conversation going.
We've got links to the EU white paper, plus some other cool resources in the show notes, so be sure to check those out. And hey, we'd love to hear your thoughts on all of this. Head over to our social media and tell us what you think. Is the digital product passport the key to a more sustainable future? Let us know. Until next time, happy diving.
That's a Google Notebook language model.
What did you do? I wrote a white paper to do speak American model.
It's only in American English available so far. Yeah.
But you just uploaded the white paper to
Only 5 minutes waiting, and then it does it by itself. And every time it's a kind of different conversation. Yeah.
So thank you, everyone.
Yeah, thank you, Hansu Lee. Thank you, Pete. Hope you guys enjoyed the podcast. Thank you for attending today, and we look forward to seeing you in other sessions of the summit. Thank you.